Yeah, I would have killed for anything bigger than a 16 millimeter back in the day, and you know. But to rehash, you know, what you guys already said too about stage actors too. A lot of my early days, I studied film in the University of Lyon in France when I was there, and the only people I could practice on was the National Conservatory of Drama, the actors in Saint-Étienne, which is outside of Lyon. And they were all, especially in France, they were very, very, you know, colossal in their movements. And trying to tone down an actor, it was my biggest challenge as a director then and now too. With Don, it wasn't hard. He's a camera actor.
Is it the egos?
No, it's just their way they gesture, and they're way over the top. I can't tell you how much I've thrown away over the years of performances, because the stage actors are way over the top.
But it's a different medium.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason for it. You have to project. You have to do the exaggerated facial expressions and the movements so it can be seen to the back of a large house. Whereas when you're on film, it's totally different.
Yeah,
it's
like
much more real life.
Subtle.
Well, and that's just it. You know, I mean, when you're on the stage, you don't get the close-up. But you do when you're on film, the camera angle or whatever. I mean, obviously you know where the camera is positioned. You don't really understand when you're acting, and you don't want to pay attention when you're acting to what's going on with the camera, because the intent is to make it as real as you can when you're in the moment. You know, you've got to make it believable. You've got to be portraying the story as subtly as you can and very naturally. You don't want it to look staged. You don't want it to look like a memorized script that you're just going out there and reading.
Well, you know, it's amazing though. You don't get the close-ups in theater that you get in film, yet most actors say, I would take theater. I love playing to a live audience.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with the instant gratification.
Yeah.
Because you've got an audience right there, and the instant gratification is the applause, the laugh, you know, they're getting it. They're understanding what you're doing right now. And truthfully, one of the films that I was in is just going to be released in October, and I've waited 3 years for that to come out now. And so you have to wait and wait and wait for a lot of these productions to go through their edits and their cuts and, you know, make them just perfect. And they finally hit the screen.
It's painful for the filmmaker too, though.
I'm sure it is.
I mean,
Let's not forget the filmmaker.
I stared at the Avid for 3 solid years for Lily's mom. In fact, I didn't even realize if it was any good anymore, because you lose all of that. Look at that eyelid thing, you know, and you cut it out. Gary Cooper was the actor for the first real actor for film, I think, because I think it was Wings. It was even silent, even, and he had mastered the subtlety of the eye. Maggie Smith in more recent years was like that. I had an actress that looked like Maggie Smith in France, English. There was an English teacher, and she was phenomenal. I had so many, of course, being trained in the French style, you know, you have these one big eye, you know, close up filling the screen, but you can't get away from that after a while. But a good actor with the subtlety, it's all subtlety. But you're teaching them to, you know, you're not saying look scared, you're saying you are scared. And I think it's a lot different from the gestures on stage. Yeah, but it was a bear trying to get those stage actors, the French stage actors, to. But there were some very good ones. Some people have a natural talent. Don has a feel for this. I mean, he's a camera actor. Maybe you're a stage actor too, but from my experience, you're a camera actor. And a director has to be kind to the actor, because you got to know your lenses, you got to know your lighting, you got to not be afraid of a light meter. Yeah. And you got to know that you got a close up, but do you want to be right up on them with a close wide angle lens and have their nose look like that, or do you want to be back with a 100 millimeter lens, you know, and just get everything in a different proportion, and maybe you want that bulbous thing. You have to think like that, and the actors have no idea what you're going through when you're trying to set that camera and decide on your lenses. That's a big decision, and it makes or breaks a shot. That's what makes it fun.
Is it hard to give up some of your creative signature, or whatever, to the filmmaker and say, you know, this is how I would play the part, but this isn't exactly the way he wants me to play the part? Do you have problems with that, or is that something that you walk into and say, okay, he's the guy with the money, he's the one making the decisions, I got to do what I got to do?
Well, I think maybe for some people it's probably hard. I mean, and in the long run, they have to realize that the person that's behind the camera is the person who's trying to get it right, and he's wanting you or she's wanting you to do it this way. And I think part of my military background too, following orders and stuff, kind of ties in with all that, and being able to adapt to wherever I'm at and however they want me to do it. I'm trying to listen to how they want me to do it and put it in that direction. And so it's you know, it's not as hard for me, I guess, but I know it'd be difficult for some.
Well, I think we've all seen the you know, the spoofs on movies, movie directing and everything, where, you know, okay, we're what's my inspiration? You know, you know, Ed was mentioning the fact that, you know, he's telling you you're not going to act scared, you're going to be scared.
Right.
Then what do you do? I mean, do you go inside yourself and try to find that, or you go back to some memory where you were horribly afraid and then try to channel that?
I'd sometimes go back to something where I, you know, got scared, and try to channel that and actually bring out that scared feeling, and then as you bring in those emotions out, kind of visual memorizing kind of thing is what it is. As you're bringing those feelings out, at the same time you're kind of fighting them. So it's not like, oh, he's trying to pretend to be this way. No, you're trying to bring it out, but you don't want it to be like that obvious. That look, I'm bringing this out. Look at me, I'm scared, kind of thing. You want to bring it out and make it real, you know, and make it feel real, but.
Well, I also think that you play off the other actors that are in the scene with you. You feed off of each other. You're in this together, or if you're in a scene by yourself, yes, you're going to have to pull more from inside. But, you know, if you've got a scene where somebody's crying and somebody produces real tears, everybody else around you realizes this is real, there's grief there, and you know, and it kind of brings everybody along with you.
Well, I'll give you some advice, okay? If there's a murderer out there, don't split up, okay?
Right.
And once you kill him, take the knife, okay? This thing that's always bugged me in the parents. You know, people are like, why are you doing this?
Don't open the door.
Yes. Don't go downstairs when the lights go out. Don't run out the door.
Well, that's all about writing. See, you want the audience to know what might happen, but you don't want them to know what will happen. You want them to worry, this is going to happen. Don't touch that doorknob. You want to do that. But to go back to what you said a minute ago about the actors and doing their own thing, a good director is going to use the actor a few different ways, and if the actor has a better way to do it or a different way to do it, you got to shoot it because it might be good. A director's like a lumberjack. You're in the woods there, you're looking at trees, you're picking the right trees and you're cutting them, but there might be an extra nut on this one tree or an interesting branch. You know, let's take that one too.
Why did you look at me when you said there was an extra nut on the tree? Was he looking at me?
Because I was talking to you.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's it.
Going back to what Nan was saying as far as listening to the other person, or the person that you're working with Kimberly Harsh, who's the female leading actress in Lily's mom, she was such a natural, and me and her together when we were working together, it was just like a natural chemistry there that we had, and it was just so easy to feed off her, and I think it was easier to feed off me, and we just had some pretty good scenes, you know, and kind of.
Well, if this was any indication, I mean, this was be an incredible movie, and I know I'm not familiar with your first movie, Jack, but I know you were on talking about your second movie. It seems like quite a difference between the two. Certainly.
Yeah, the first one was called We No Care, and that was a kind of a farce comedy, basically shot in one location, one big mansion. Then the second one was a comedy, sort of a double indemnity comedy. And so I guess, I don't know if it was purposefully or not, where I said, well, you know, whether they're good or not, I've done comedy, now let's see what else we can do here. And it's funny, and Ed can probably speak to this, but when you write a film, you have in the mindset, I'm writing a thriller, I'm writing a whatever, but when it gets shot and when I edit this is a lot different. This is sort of a family drama with some murder and with some mystery and with some action, but it's a lot different film than I felt I was going to make. And it's really interesting. When you edit it together, you can't say, well, I don't want it to be that. I want it to be what I originally thought it was going to be because of the actors and you know, just how it comes together.
So does that happen often where it sort of evolves like that?
Oh, yeah. When you're writing, it does that too. It's almost like when you're writing something, you're saying to yourself, I wonder how this is going to turn out. Let's keep writing, you know.
Exactly.
Because they come alive, just like your actors come alive. And Don and Kim, they emoted so much hatred between themselves. You swear they really were married, you know. But no, but it has a life of itself. That's the beauty of working with actors. Anything in the creative world, a painter will do that too. The painting will come alive. It's not like, I think I'll put a dot of paint here. It has a life of its own. And the trick is to harness that. And as the director, and as a filmmaker, and as a writer, and as the editor, you got to realize you're creating something that maybe didn't start out that way, but it was inside of you. You're, like Michelangelo, when he carved something out of a chunk of marble, he wasn't picking something to make. He said, I'm liberating the form from within the marble. And that was a great quote from him, and that was really, isn't that great? You know?
I think as a director, you go in with a preconceived notion with regards to what's going to happen. But you've got that human factor of all of the other actors, and you don't know how they're going to act in the situation that you've put them in. And I think that's where the surprises and the evolution start to happen. As the film starts to unroll, it's like, wow, this is a different beast, and yet you can still massage it and get to where you need to.
Do you guys ever get the Jim Carreys out there? Because I've read that he can be fascinating to just kind of let the camera kind of follow him around. Right. And then I think Meg Tilly in Liar Liar said, I didn't know what was going on. You know, we were told to be ready for absolutely anything, because if he went off, that we were just going to go with it.
In my films, I guess particularly this one, and again, this is maybe just because I'm so married to it and I know it so well, and what I consider it a very tight story. So if I have people improving the dialogue, it's going to totally mess it up. And so, and I don't know, Don, if this has been your experience, but it's not only they've got to get the general gist of the dialogue right, they've got to get the dialogue right, because if it doesn't come out right, you're going to miss something, and you're not going to give the clue that happens 4 scenes later, and people are going to say, well, where did that come from? And so, you know, people say, well, I think I got another way to say this. And I said, well, you can say it a different way, but here's the words you got to say.
You didn't have that problem with me, Jack.
No.
I couldn't say any of the words. I remember.
But you eventually got them all right. But what's interesting is that they can say the words that you wrote, but they can come out different, and the whole feel and the timbre of the scene can be different, just because, and that's what they bring to it, which is so cool.
But you want to control things. I don't know, different directors work different ways. A friend of mine was the gaffer for Goodfellas, and I asked him about that scene where Joe Pesci's going, you mean I amuse you? You mean I'm ha-ha funny, that scene? And I said, Jerry, how did they do that?
That was a classic.
It's a classic. And he said, Scorsese told the actors, he said, here's your shot, here's your frame, and he said to Pesci, start improving, and they kept reshooting over and over and over and over again that scene with all different stuff. He improved all these lines, and then they cut the best of it. And Jerry said the crew was dying. It was so funny. They were just rolling.
Is that the beginning of reality TV?
Nah, it was just improvisation.
You just got to roll the camera and just do it?
No, but it has to be what you want. Scorsese had certain parameters. He knew that the chemistry here had to be this kind of scene. The exact words weren't important. It's what he's doing to Ray Liotta that had to be what counted. And you do that when you're directing, but I don't know, I'm a control freak when it comes to that. I mean, as Nan can tell you, Don, I had storyboards with the lenses written on them, and I block it out, because I don't want to mess around with that stuff once we're on the set. I want to be with the actors. But I want to know where that camera's going to be, and I want to know what lens it is. I want to know where the dolly's going to go, where the track is set.
And you wonder why you have migraines?
No, never during a movie. My wife hates when I do these things, because she says you're a different person. But it's a different act, But if a writer is also the director and also the editor, it's really, you've got the whole movie.
It's
and
God with a small G.
So it either you rise to the top, you're the hero, or it tanks and nobody.
And there's literally,
that's what you want.
For Ed, for the last 3 years, and myself for the last 2 years, there's not a day that goes by when you're not either working on the movie or thinking about it. And it's sort of the blessing and the curse, because I think, man, if I was an actor, I could go out and do 3 more films, and then all I got to do is show up at the movie theater and take my bows. But on the other hand, when you look forward to getting up early so you can edit something, or so you can rewrite a scene, or you can't wait for Saturday because that's the day you're going to shoot the big scene.